Welcome in to another episode of Betting the Pitch. I'm your host, the real underscore G Warner. Hopefully, I'm not going to be muted on this episode because unfortunately, I somehow hit my little windscreen and that somehow also hit my mute button or something like that. Thank you for everyone who reached out. I think most of you were listening on Apple Podcasts. I appreciate you pointing that out that the stream didn't work on Twitter either. All the Spotify listeners, you are very quiet, so I don't know if you exist. I hope you do. But anyway, thanks if you're watching on any of those areas or on YouTube, however you're doing it. I appreciate it. Sorry that the first episode didn't come out, but now it's Tuesday night and in the US, and we can record talking about Wednesday matches and hopefully give you a nice little primer for the second day of Champions League this week. Still planning on doing Europa League tomorrow night, so stick around. Hopefully I'll have just as much wine before doing this one as I did tonight. With that said, let's get going. This is probably going to be a brief episode, but I'm going to go through all of Wednesday's Champions League action, try to get you a best bet. And I think I ultimately picked my best bet from Wednesday anyway. So that would be the ultimate best bet that you would have heard yesterday if my microphone had worked. So first match is Napoli hosting Ajax. Currently, Napoli a 1-goal favorite right now with most of the juice, and I think that's deserved. They went to Ajax, they went to Holland, they went to Amsterdam and murdered Ajax last midweek. Napoli have had the best start you could ask for in the Champions League, especially for a team that was picked or was projected by the marketplace to finish third in this group. I took them to advance. I kind of wish I had taken them to win the group. But didn't really know that Liverpool would be as poor as they've shown so far, or that Napoli's been as good as they have been. As an underdog player, I like Ajax +1 by default. But I have some big concerns about Ajax. I had them coming into this. It's part of why I played Napoli to advance. It was essentially a play of Napoli versus Ajax in this group. And the reason why I did that is because Ajax were great last year, but it was against a very weak Champions League group that I think made them look a lot stronger than they actually were. They then sold off all their players essentially for ridiculous amounts of money to Manchester United and others, mainly Manchester United because their manager also left for that job. And that has left Ajax in a conundrum a bit. I mean, they're used to selling players. They're really strong, very talented, of course, score a lot of goals. But their defense seems very, very problematic, especially against a team like Napoli, who have shown they can score against anybody. I think, if anything, Napoli's biggest problem is their defense. But I don't know that Ajax are good enough defensively to keep Napoli quiet. So if you're playing this one and you like Ajax to be in a competitive match, or really you like this match to even go 90 minutes, because I feel like if it's going to go 90, then that over under of 3.25 seems a little bit short. It's hard to get to 4 goals. I get that. I think my strongest lean in this one, rather than Ajax taking the +1, I do like full goals of insurance. I think it's probably over 3.25. But I don't think I'm going to get in the way of that, as I feel like Napoli know that if they get a good result here, a result probably in general, that they will almost cement themselves into the knockout round. And I do think that matters because then they can focus more on Serie A, where they're also flying. Next in the early window, we have Atletico Madrid hosting Bruges. Currently, Atleti a 1.25 goal favorite. And yet again, an Atleti line is puzzling me as much as a line really could. I don't really understand the respect they get. They have a really awesome manager who did a great job of turning a team that didn't have a lot of resources and not a lot of talent into a competitive one. Yet now he has all the competitive ability, all the resources, all the talent, and he still wants to play in a defensive fashion, which doesn't make sense for his personnel. And Diego Simeone is a 1.25 goal favorite with a team that really is probably the biggest red card risk out there in the world at this point, at least of European teams. And their weird contract situation with Griezmann certainly doesn't help. I also don't think that they really have an offensive identity of who to go through, who to kick the ball to, who's going to create. I don't think they know any of that because they juggle Griezmann, they juggle the young Portuguese Joao, whatever his name is. I guess the one showing now. Joao, oh my god, I can see his face. Anyway, Bruges, on the other hand, have been awesome. I mean, what more could you ask for from a Belgian side to win every match they played so far in Champions League halfway through group stages? They're pretty close to clinching a berth in the second round. Who expected that one? Nobody, except I've been riding Bruges really hard. Have backed them in each of these matches, have won very easily in all of them, it felt like. And they have to lose by a goal here on the road at the Wanda Metropolitano, which is going to be a tough place to play. I've been there. I watched Liverpool control probably a much better Liverpool side than you're seeing today, just a year ago. But they controlled Atleti. They ran them all around. I don't think the venue is that intimidating for opposing teams. I think it's mainly more intimidating for referees, which does matter. But I don't know that it matters enough for them to win by 2 goals because the crowd's not putting the ball in the net. Neither the referees. Those throws. They're not doing it. And I just feel like Atleti have a lot of problems. They take a red card at any point in this match, which is, I mean, not a 0% chance at all. It's not a 0% chance for anybody, but I think especially for Atleti, that's a pretty high risk, maybe 10, 15%. I think Bruges are in a good position either way to lose 1-0 here, and you still cover and win half your bet. Certainly that puts them in a tough position if they're going for a goal to equalize late, that maybe 1-0 turns into 2-0, but I don't even know that Atleti really take that 1-0 lead. I think Bruges, they have assembled a team of really good players, taking Jutla in from on loan from Barcelona. He's been awesome. I mean, there's a reason why he was playing that Barcelona team last year, whether they were struggling or not. He might even be more of a dangerous threat than anything Atleti poses. I mean, Alvaro Morata, say what you want about him. He's a really good goal threat, does score. But besides him, I just don't know, like Marcos Llorente coming up from a fullback position or a wingback position. He's going to be your creator. Koke, I mean, he's put in more, I guess he's appeared more times than anyone in La Liga or something like that. They gave him a guard of honor last weekend. I'm sorry, I don't see anything from Atleti that makes me want to avoid them. You'll probably, if you listen to this podcast, know that I bet against them all the time with mixed results, I got to say, but I feel like I've deserved way better results than I've gotten. And I think Bruges deserve, I mean, if you've been riding the Bruges train so far, 3-0, I mean, every game is independent, certainly, but 3-1 still feels like a really nice run. And I don't really see Atleti winning by more than a goal. So I think Bruges can draw this game. I think Bruges can win this game. So getting 1.25 is a great number for me. Now, with all that said, I guess we'll move to the nightcaps of the Champions League. We've got Rangers hosting Liverpool, getting 1.5 goals at home. And Rangers are in big trouble. I thought that they'd be strong at home, and that was going to keep them alive in this group. Unfortunately, Napoli ripped them to shreds, as did Ajax. I guess Napoli at Rangers were home, and that was a lot closer probably than I'm saying. But anyway, Liverpool have looked really, really poor. The problem is I think Rangers have to push out and try to win this match, because if they get a draw here, that's not enough for them to try to move along. Currently, Ajax on 3 points with that win against Rangers at home. And then Liverpool on 6, Napoli on 9. I think they need a win here. And unfortunately, I don't think they can play defensively for too long. I mean, maybe they do it for a half, but even then, if you need a win, I feel like you're going to be more aggressive than you probably should be. I think Liverpool are talented enough to at least take advantage of a team that has to overextend themselves and play in a way they don't want to. So that 1.5, I guess, looks nice if you really just want to fade Liverpool. I'm not sure I necessarily want to do that. And a 3.25 over under, I don't really feel a certain way about. Next, we'll go Leverkusen hosting FC Porto. And this has moved up from 1/4 goal now when I record again, even though none of you could hear this portion of the podcast from last night, or I guess yesterday. Leverkusen, 1/2 goal favorite, all the juice on Porto on the road. And I wouldn't be shocked if this one closes a quarter. I think half is probably unlikely to stay here, but based on the top juice right now, or how high it is, I mean, it's available in front of me. So yet to sponsor this portion of the podcast, speaking about lines, but if you want to get into that, slide in my DMs, please. Anyway, Porto, they're from the La Liga Portugal, a league that I really think has overperformed expectations for 3 years now. And I'm starting to believe that's just as strong as the French league, and maybe even as strong as the German Bundesliga. And the nice part here is they play a Bundesliga side that sack their manager because they've been so bad. One performance against Schalke, who probably are sacking their manager this week, doesn't change my opinions at all on what's going to happen here. Leverkusen were built to score goals. They're not great at defending. Porto, on the other hand, are great at defending and probably less built to score goals. I just don't believe that Leverkusen can score against reasonable teams that actually put some pressure on. And I think Porto have the ability to do that. Porto were pretty fortunate, I thought, to win the last match just a week ago when these two played. I feel like the VAR was not on the side of Leverkusen. I'm not saying that was wrong or fixed or unfair. Just didn't seem to work out for Leverkusen at this point. So while I get the new manager balance under Javi Alonso who came in, I think that's important. But I think from where I sit, Porto getting half of a goal is too big for Leverkusen to give anybody at this point. So I lean that way. Barcelona then hosts Inter Milan, a big matchup for the group of death in the Champions League, and Inter winning the reverse fixture in San Siro at their home turf was a big deal for how this group will go. Barcelona currently a 1.25 goal favorite, which I think is too big. It speaks to the problems that Inter have been having this season. Certainly a big week last week with the win against Barcelona and also beating Sassuolo, though that was not easy. The nice part here is they just need to lose by a goal and you still win half your bet. I think a draw is relatively, I think a draw is definitely possible. I do think there are going to be goals scored in this matchup. Seeing an over-under of 3 is actually a little lower than I would expect. I'm not saying to play the over here, but I just was expecting it to be higher than that because Barcelona doesn't play any sort of defense whatsoever. They try to, but I think it's really because they possess the ball so much that essentially is them playing defense. But I mean, Koundé has always had red cards in him and other problems. I liked him a lot at Sevilla, and I still like him today. But ultimately, the partners that he has with Eric Garcia, I mean, the worst defender, and I mean, it's amazing that he gets any sort of time or is even named in the Spanish national team. I don't know who he has naked pictures of, but it's honestly hilarious. With that said, I don't love Inter because I've not really had good success with backing them. But Edin Dzeko's a really scary guy in the box with his height, with his aerial ability. I don't think anyone in Barcelona have any chance against him necessarily if he's put in a good position. Lautaro Martinez is about as fickle as the weather, but when he's playing well, which he isn't coming into this match, I'll say that. But he can certainly do it. And I think the Inter's setup under Inzaghi, I think they're trying to, after a poor start, I think they're trying to get to play more like Conte was playing with them. It kind of neuters their current manager, but that was where they were having success. And I think he wants to keep his job. So from where I sit, Barcelona, they have to win this match to get back even with Inter. And then I don't know exactly what the tiebreaker situations would be, but that's probably a concern too. With that said, I think Inter getting more than a goal is the way I lean. And honestly, that might make my card, as I feel like I like every match I've spoken about so far. Well, here we go. There's one I won't like, and that's Victoria Plzen. I just had a beer from Plzen while I was in Leipzig, I want to say. And they host Bayern München, another beer drinking town. And Victoria Plzen, Czech Republic side, are getting 2.25 from Bayern. I don't really know what number I would need to be interested in Victoria Plzen. Certainly not 2.25. While that might be the fair line from the marketplace, I just don't really want to get in the way of Bayern unless I feel really good about their opponent. They seem to drop games I wouldn't expect and had a really bad run leading into the international break, but they've seemed to stabilize a little bit since then. And from where I sit, I'm not looking at a Czech Republic side against the best team in Germany. No, thank you. Next, we'll move Sporting Lisboa hosting Marseille in a wild match from last week where Sporting Lisboa took a lead and Lisbon honestly started the game off great. Then their goalkeeper decided to make an absolute fool of himself with bad turnovers, bad goal kicks, and then to top that all off, tried to handle the ball because he misjudged a header coming out of his own box that got him a quick red card. And the backup goalkeeper misjudged the corner kick in his first minute in the match. And then a 1-0 lead turned into 3-0 very, very quickly. Now we fast forward in a tough group where Marseille finally got their first points to get to 3. And Sporting Lisboa with a win against Tottenham had worked out really well for them in the previous match. But and I guess they had won at Frankfurt, so that was Lisboa in a great position. If their goalkeeper hadn't made a fool of himself, they might be free and clear right now. I mean, not completely, but it would have been looking a lot better. Sporting are currently a quarter goal favorite with a backup goalkeeper who's either a third stringer that they hadn't made active for that matchup, or it's the young goalkeeper since the starting goalkeeper, 35-year-old, who had been in the Atleti system. Maybe he had learned a lot too much from Diego Simeone and liked getting red cards. Probably not. But so there's a big hole in the Sporting Lisboa goal. And that's a scary thing when Marseille, hungry as they are, sitting bottom of the group, are coming in, and especially hungry after a really poor performance, losing this weekend at home to Ajaccio, who can't score, can't hit water if they fell out of a boat, essentially. But I lean to Marseille getting that quarter because I think they're stronger than a lot of the market has thought they were so far. I thought they outplayed Tottenham, in London. I thought they played Frankfurt fairly well, but didn't get anything from either of those two matches, and then really got a fortunate result based on the Sporting Lisboa keeper. But I feel like that momentum in this competition does matter, though certainly this weekend was a setback. But I don't really know how to trust anything from Sporting Lisboa right now in the goalkeeping area. And they looked really bad in this competition last season. So I don't really know that I can change my mind because I backed them against Ajax and they lost, I think they gave up 4 goals to Sebastian Haller. Get well soon, Sebi. He's fighting, I think, a cancer diagnosis, testicular cancer. There's been a lot of those this offseason. But Marseille getting a quarter on my list, and I'm looking at that pretty hard because I don't think Sporting Lisboa can really recover from this backup goalkeeper situation because it looks really, really scary. Last but not least, Tottenham hosts Eintracht Frankfurt. Currently, Tottenham a 1-goal favorite with all the juice. And I've been pretty open about being against Tottenham for a long time now. They don't possess the ball. They don't want the ball. And I think that's a big problem as a favorite, especially as a big favorite. One of those teams that had a lot of people backing them to win the Premier League, and they've been nowhere near that so far. Not sure what I think about South Korea based on how Sonny has played this year, separating that hat trick he had off the bench because he got benched because he was playing so poorly. I think that helps him in his confidence, but I don't think he's anywhere near as strong as he has been in the past. I don't think that's necessarily Conte's fault, but I feel like they brought in a lot of players and they are playing too many guys that aren't really aligned or playing for the same goals or same whatevers. And so that's certainly scary. With that said, Eintracht Frankfurt certainly did not look good this weekend. They rotated quite a bit at Bochum, losing the bottom side in the Bundesliga. Not great. They had a chance, hit the crossbar, and seemed to really kind of shut down from there. Bochum needed a win. They played really strong. They used their legs advantage. They used their crowd. I'm not completely setting or throwing Eintracht Frankfurt off because I do believe that they kind of were rotating and trying to get the best they could out of that matchup at the bottom table side in the Bundesliga, and just didn't really work out. It's not a good sign, I'll put it that way. But getting +1 from Tottenham right now, full goal of insurance, is a huge number for Tottenham to lay. And I like the idea of fading Tottenham until they kind of force me to stop doing it. And I don't think they're going to be able to do that thing for a long time. So to recap Wednesday's card in the Champions League, Ajax am not really that interested. If anything, I like over in that matchup. Atletico Madrid and Bruges, I love Bruges getting 1.25, and I believe that'll be my ultimate best bet, but I don't want to jump ahead of myself. I want to finish this card, especially because no one was able to hear this portion yesterday when I recorded it. Rangers getting 1.5 from Liverpool. That's if you're playing Rangers, it's a Liverpool fade, and that's it. I'm not comfortable enough to do that. Leverkusen hosting Porto. I like Porto getting 0.5 of a goal. I'm not sure it'll close that high of a number, but I'm not a believer in Leverkusen just from one good performance against Schalke. I love the Portuguese league. I think they're better than anyone gives them credit for, so I like Porto getting 0.5. Barcelona hosting Inter Milan. Barcelona giving 1.25 goals. And I like Inter. They just beat them in San Siro. I'm not sure it was that dominant of a performance, but I do think that there's a lot for Inter to gain here by playing in a counter-attacking style, and Barcelona will leave themselves open because they just don't really care, and they'll never really think about those sort of things. Because if you play for Barcelona, you think you're the best, and you're not the best right now. I like Inter getting a goal in a quarter. Victoria Plzen, skip. I'm not interested in fading Bayern with a Farmers League or worse club. Marseille getting a quarter from Sporting Lisboa. I think there's a huge goalkeeping problem for the Portuguese side. I do love La Liga Portugal, but I like Marseille. I think I've liked them for this whole time. I'm do want to see what they start and what their lineup looks like, but I think that Sporting Lisboa as a favorite is a really tough position because I don't know that I trust them to score goals. And I feel like Marseille's offense is more potent. They certainly have a much wider range of outcomes because they seem so emotional and they seem all over the place. But I do think going and getting a quarter on the road from Lisboa with a big question in goalkeeping is a good position to be because I think Marseille will exploit that and will test him quite a bit. And last but not least, Eintracht Frankfurt getting a full goal from Tottenham looks great to me, especially when this probably climbs to 1.25 before it kicks off. And I just don't believe in Tottenham right now. They have to prove to me that they have figured out their counterattacking offense because it has been few and far between so far. My ultimate best bet, I will stay with Bruges getting 1.25 on the road at Atletico Madrid. A single goal loss is a half of a goal. Is a half. It's a win when you win half of your return. And I'm not saying that's enough for me. I think Bruges can go in and win this match. I'm not afraid of the Wanda Metropolitano. I do think that there's a lot of motivation on the Atleti side, but I don't think they're ever lacking for that. So Bruges plus 1.25 will be my ultimate best bet for match day 4 of the Champions League. You can follow me on Twitter, @the_real_G Warner. Feel free to slide in those DMs. I thank you to everyone who told me that the mute button was on. Hopefully this one came through okay, and you get it on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or YouTube, wherever you're watching. If you want it somewhere else, holler. Send me something, slide in the DMs, tell me where you want it. I'm trying to get this out to as many people as possible. And thanks again. And hopefully tell me if the sound works this time. I'd be very much appreciative of it. Have a good night. And I look forward to winning some money tomorrow with all you helping out.